You're standing face to face with a figure that makes your worst nightmares look like bedtime stories. 7 feet of steel and sanctified fury towers before you, and you can feel death itself radiating from every inch of his armored form. You think you know what a warrior looks like. You think your martial arts classes matter. You think modern soldiers are the pinnacle of combat effectiveness. You're about to discover just how catastrophically wrong you are. The gap between you and a Knight Templar is so vast that calling it a comparison would be an insult to mathematics itself. A Knight Templar would annihilate any modern combatant so completely that witnesses would question the laws of physics. The destruction would be so absolute that calling it a fight would be like calling a nuclear explosion a firecracker. Let me paint you the real picture of what these men actually were, because everything you think you know about medieval warriors is probably wrong. The Knights Templar weren't just soldiers. They were the product of the most brutal and sophisticated military training system ever devised by human civilization. Founded in 1119 by Hugh de Paynes and 8 companions, these men transformed from simple monks into the most feared fighting force the world has ever known. Within 50 years, they had become so dominant that entire armies would flee at the mere sight of their white mantles and red crosses. At age 7, future Templars were stripped from their families and thrust into a world where weakness meant death. By age 14, they could ride a full gallop while firing arrows with deadly accuracy. By 18, they had mastered 17 different weapons and could fight effectively in full armor, weighing 90 pounds for 12 consecutive hours. By 21, they had killed more men than most modern soldiers will see in their entire careers. Take Geoffroy de Charnay, the preceptor of Normandy. This man could swing a 2-handed sword weighing 8 pounds with such speed and precision that contemporary accounts describe him cutting through 3 armored opponents in a single sweeping motion. The physics alone should have been impossible, yet hundreds of witnesses documented these feats. Modern biomechanical analysis of Templar remains shows bone density 2.3 times greater than today's elite athletes, with muscle attachment points indicating strength levels that would make professional strongmen weep. The archaeological evidence is terrifying. Excavated Templar gravesites reveal men averaging 6 feet 4 inches in height when the general population barely reached 5 feet 6. Their skeletal remains show fracture patterns, indicating they routinely survived impacts that would kill modern humans instantly. Carbon isotope analysis of their bones reveals protein consumption levels, suggesting they ate twice the meat of contemporary nobles, fueling muscular development that bordered on the superhuman. Studies conducted on Templar weaponry recovered from archaeological sites reveal metallurgy so advanced that modern blacksmiths struggled to replicate their techniques. Their swords contained carbon compositions creating blades that were simultaneously flexible enough to bend 90 degrees without breaking and hard enough to cleave through iron armor. Temperature analysis shows they achieved forge heats of 2100 degrees Fahrenheit, using techniques lost for 8 centuries. But here's where the comparison with modern fighters becomes truly humiliating. While today's martial artists practice for a few hours several times per week, Templars trained from dawn until dusk every single day for decades. Their training regime makes Navy SEAL preparation look like a weekend hobby. They spent 8 hours daily in full combat armor, practicing mounted warfare at speeds that would terrify modern equestrians. They memorized and drilled over 300 combat combinations until muscle memory replaced conscious thought. Everything you think you know about medieval combat from movies and games is wrong. The reality is far more terrifying than Hollywood ever dared imagine. These weren't slow, clumsy knights stumbling around in cumbersome armor. Templar plate armor was so perfectly fitted and balanced that wearing it actually improved their combat effectiveness. The armor distributed weight so efficiently that a fully armored Templar could perform acrobatic maneuvers that would challenge modern gymnasts. Contemporary accounts from the Crusades describe Templars performing feats that sound like fantasy novels. During the Battle of Montgisard in 1177, 80 Templar knights charged directly into Saladin's army of 30,000 men and not only survived the encounter, but routed the entire enemy force. The mathematical impossibility of this victory suggests combat capabilities beyond modern comprehension. Consider the weapon's mastery alone. A Templar could draw, aim, and fire a crossbow bolt with lethal accuracy in under 3 seconds while riding at full gallop. They could throw a Francisca axe with enough force to penetrate chainmail from 50 yards. Their lance work was so precise they could thread a needle with a 12-foot spear while charging at 30 miles per hour. Modern Olympic athletes, training with similar weapons for years, cannot approach these performance levels. The mental conditioning was equally devastating. Templars underwent psychological preparation designed to eliminate every trace of fear, doubt, and self-preservation. They were literally trained to view death as a reward rather than a consequence. This wasn't bravado or religious fanaticism. This was systematic psychological conditioning that created minds incapable of retreat or surrender. But here's what makes this truly terrifying for any modern person. You've been raised in a world of comfort and safety. Your nervous system has never experienced genuine mortal terror. Your body has never been pushed beyond its breaking point day after day for decades. Your mind has never been forged in the fires of constant warfare where hesitation means death and mercy is a luxury that gets you killed. A Templar's reflexes were honed by surviving thousands of life or death encounters. Their pain tolerance was developed through injuries that would send modern people into shock. Their situational awareness was sharpened by environments where missing a single detail meant watching your brothers die around you. They possessed sensory perception and reaction speeds that would seem supernatural to contemporary observers. The technical specifications are equally brutal. A Templar's primary weapon, the arming sword, weighed 3.5 pounds and could be swung at speeds exceeding 70 miles per hour. The impact force of a single blow measured over 800 pounds per square inch, enough to shatter modern body armor like glass. Their warhammers delivered kinetic energy equivalent to being struck by a small car traveling at highway speeds. Their crossbows fired steel bolts at velocities of 400 feet per second with accuracy that put modern sniper rifles to shame. Archaeological testing of recovered Templar crossbow bolts shows penetration capabilities that could punch through 6 inches of hardwood or 3 inches of iron. The draw weights required to operate these weapons averaged 350 pounds, demanding strength levels that only 1 in 10,000 modern humans could achieve. Consider their mounted combat capabilities. A Templar on horseback became a guided missile weighing over 2,000 pounds, traveling at 35 miles per hour. The physics of a cavalry charge delivered impact forces that modern engineers classify as vehicle collisions rather than interpersonal combat. The destruction was so complete that contemporary accounts describe single Templar knights riding through entire formations and emerging from the other side completely unharmed while leaving dozens of corpses in their wake. The strategic implications were equally devastating. Templars operated with military intelligence networks that spanned 3 continents. They possessed maps and tactical knowledge that gave them advantages equivalent to having satellite reconnaissance in an age of blind warfare. Their communication systems using coded messages and signal fires allowed coordination across vast distances with precision that modern armies struggle to match even with radio technology. Their logistical capabilities bordered on the miraculous. A Templar force could march for weeks through hostile territory while maintaining full combat readiness. They carried specialized equipment that allowed them to construct siege engines from local materials in under 6 hours. Their field surgery techniques kept warriors fighting through injuries that would incapacitate modern soldiers permanently. Archaeological evidence shows Templars routinely survived and recovered from wounds that included severed limbs, penetrating chest trauma, and skull fractures that cracked their helmets. You wouldn't last 15 seconds against a Knight Templar, and that's being generous. Your martial arts training would be useless. Your physical fitness would be irrelevant. Your modern combat knowledge would be like bringing a calculator to fight a supercomputer. The moment combat began, you would experience a level of violence and skill so far beyond your comprehension that your nervous system would simply shut down from sheer overwhelm. The Templar wouldn't even need to kill you quickly. He could toy with you, demonstrating the vast gulf between your capabilities and his own. He could disarm you with casual ease, break your weapons with his bare hands, and demonstrate techniques that would leave you questioning everything you thought you knew about human potential. The psychological impact alone would be more devastating than any physical injury. So the next time you feel confident about your fighting abilities, remember this. You live in an age of softness compared to the crucible that forged the Knights Templar. These men were the apex predators of human civilization, and despite 8 centuries of technological advancement, we still haven't produced their equals. Standing before such a warrior wouldn't be a fight. It would be a humbling lesson in what humans are truly capable of becoming when necessity and training converge in perfect, terrifying harmony.